Coming up next on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime, we go in-depth on the value of Dolph Ziggler to WWE. We take a look back at WWE Raw, SmackDown, and TNA Impact Wrestling from Thursday night, and a full review of WWE Extreme Rules on pay-per-view. All of that, including this week's Event Center, hot news, and Diamond of the Ring, right here, right now on PWR Primetime Saturday night. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Saturday night right here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Octavius and Tiberius, the alleged backyard one-time knockouts, divas, hardcore but straight edge, and always draft losing Hero. How are you, David, here on May 25th?
I am doing fantastic.
It's Memorial Day weekend.
It's been a great week.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How so? What was so great for you this week?
Be the booker.
That was last week.
I've retired. I'm done.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
I really been hoping you'd
release yourself
out of your contract so I can replace you.
9-0.
Once. How'd you do for WrestleMania? How'd you do for the Royal Rumble? How'd you do for the February pay-per-view?
That was a long time ago.
How'd you do for TNA Genesis? Oh, that doesn't matter.
No, it's what have you done for me lately?
Janet, Miss Jackson. All right, let's go to this week's... Actually, we're going to go into a pay-per-view report, David Hero. We're going to look back at WWE Extreme Rules, which was this past Sunday night, and I think really the big story coming out of that pay-per-view in St. Louis was the fact that 3 championship belts are around the waist of 3 new talents, and that would be the tag team titles and the United States Championship. The Shield comes out very strong out of Extreme Rules, much like I think just about anyone could have predicted, but it was still great seeing it, and now it has happened. And now the Shield is even stronger.
Well, and the way it was is that the victories they had, they were clean wins. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, almost right in the middle of the ring for each title win for them.
Especially in the case of Ambrose, it was a deliberate clean win because the Shield, the other 2 members came out with them and then turned around, walked out, and that point was made to us as the audience.
But let's not forget, Kofi Kingston got a lot of offense in. Mm-hmm. He definitely shined as the champ going into the match. But all it takes is a mistake or two, and he actually beat himself in that match for Ambrose to get the win with that front-facing DDT
That's
headbuster.
What it looked like.
It's ridiculous.
It was innovative.
Awesome. It's an awesome move.
As we said as well, the team of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns defeat Team Hell No. Again, another matchup that saw actual competition, and you didn't know, even though you thought you knew, who would win the match.
Yeah, and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Daniel Bryan and Kane, they had a great match. Mm-hmm. I mean, all 4 of those guys clicked. If I had known any better, I would have thought that those guys would have been on the house show circuit together, working on those matches. It was that good.
They're just that damn good.
Well, they are good. Daniel Bryan is an amazing talent, and Kane's been around for 15 years.
John Cena versus Ryback. This one ends in a draw. Was it the right thing to do, David Hero, after seeing it, even though you surprisingly somehow or another figured out a way to predict? Oh, because it was a prediction, because you guys went that way. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Blah, blah, blah. I don't have time for your semantics. But was it the right thing to do after you saw it?
It was the only thing to do. You have to, because that match is a feud finisher. Last man standing. Yeah. They're not going to do a one and done. Now, the ambulance match coming up, that's another feud finisher. Usually that's always the last match in a program. Interesting why they got to keep doing all these different gimmick matches with John Cena and Ryback. Kind of tells me that they're not confident that these 2 guys can pull off a traditional singles match by themselves.
You know what, though? Fine, I'll take it, because they actually had a great match.
They did. They had a great match.
Extreme Rules.
Beat each other up.
Yeah. There was some good times in that matchup and a good finish to it. However, controversy, David, because you can make the argument that Ryback was the last man standing.
No, he was not. Because if you were counting from the time they went through that Titan
nobody was.
It was at least 45 seconds, and they had to lift Ryback up. He didn't get up on his own power.
But he was standing.
You know what? Stop it.
Was John Cena standing?
No.
Yes or no?
You know what the amazing...
Yes or no? Was John Cena standing?
He was laying down.
Was he standing? Yes or no?
I said he was laying down.
Was he standing? Yes or no?
How did John
See that,
Cena...
folks? Mark it. Count it. Again, this one does not answer the question.
How did he land perfectly on those bars? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm still wondering if he was standing or not.
No,
yes
he
or
was
no.
laying down. On those
Was
bars.
Ryback standing? Yes or no?
He was helped up.
Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. Did Triple H actually do the right thing in this matchup? Brock Lesnar wins, but David Hero, you somehow or another believe that Triple H still didn't give Brock Lesnar all he deserved in this matchup.
No, he did not. No, and here's why. Because at WrestleMania, Triple H knocked out Brock Lesnar.
Knocked him out?
Yeah, he gave him the pedigree on the stairs, and there was no outside interference. The cage match, Paul Heyman needs to get involved and gives him the shot to the planters, and then he gets hit in the head with
his own sledgehammer.
With the gimmick, yeah, the sledgehammer. So it's kind of like it took 2.5 people to beat Triple H, whereas it just took Triple H to beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. You know I'm right. Come on.
No, I know you're wrong, because in my opinion, Triple H did all that at WrestleMania. So how could Brock Lesnar just cleanly beat him in a cage match at Extreme Rules? Didn't they have to prove that it took Lesnar more effort than it took Triple H to beat him?
Former UFC real fighting world champion.
Former. Jerry Springer's a former mayor of Cincinnati or Cleveland,
Well,
Ohio.
if it wasn't for the prostitutes, he'd probably still be the mayor right now.
They took the direction to make it as believable as possible, I think, in Brock Lesnar's win over Triple H. And I don't think Brock Lesnar suffered at all from the way by which he won that
because
matchup.
it wasn't convincing.
Really?
No, the SummerSlam match.
Him in a jaw with a sledgehammer. How's that not
convincing? The SummerSlam match was convincing.
If you give me a sledgehammer, I want to see how convincing
No,
it is.
here's why. Because it's still open-ended. Now there's still another chapter for this program, if they so choose to go that way.
Speaking of another chapter, Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger in a I Quit match. Again, another match that over-delivered, I think, because of the shenanigans at the end especially. Towel being thrown in, instant replay by the referee at ringside, the match restarting, Alberto Del Rio then making Jack Swagger tap out. I was surprisingly entertained because all of us thought, including you, that without Dolph Ziggler, this match would be nothing.
You know, people can say what they want about Jack Swagger. They don't like him, weed the people, whatever else it may be. That guy can go. He is a tremendous in-ring talent, and I think having Uncle Zeb out there with him has only increased his value. And him and Del Rio, which have been kind of boring as of late, had a far better match Sunday than they did at WrestleMania.
That's WWE Extreme Rules, which was this past Sunday on pay-per-view. If you want to find out all the coverage, make sure you hop on over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/PWR Show. We brought you exclusive play-by-play coverage of that event on our Facebook page. I want to thank all of you for joining us there. However, there is still so much more here to come on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. We've got this week's WWE Report, along with an in-depth segment on the value of Dolph Ziggler to WWE. All of that including this week's Hot News, Diamond of the Ring, and this week's Wrestling Outlook. But first, we've got this week's Event Center right after this brief timeout.
Welcome back to PWR Prime Time. Hello, David
Hey,
Hero.
Linda, how are you?
Doing tremendous.
Whoa, I bet you didn't see that coming.
No, I did not. All right, well, got my special Nurse Linda belt.
Yes.
By popular demand.
Fantastic. It's the most popular item on PWR Show right now.
That thing's hanging around there.
Well, as long as it doesn't hit me in the face, we're okay.
All right, let's take it to the Event Center, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. Meet Al Snow at Robert Hack Diamonds on Saturday, July 13th at a special meet and greet event. Get all the details now at pwrshow.com. Milwaukee's very own GLCW returns to Circle B in Cedarburg for Calapalooza on June 28th, featuring Armando Estrada, Scotty 2 Hottie, and Rikishi. Tickets are available now at blizzardbrawl.com. And that's it for this week's Event Center, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices. We'll see you at the matches.
This week's Robert Hack Diamond of the Ring is the newly repackaged Curtis Axel. Yes, the third-generation star, formerly known as Joe Henning of Nexus. Now it joins up with Paul Heyman, takes out Triple H. This week's Robert Hack Diamond of the Ring, the place where they pay cash for gold, is Curtis Axel.
You don't like his name, but he's your star of the week.
I like him.
Yesterday on Hot Tag, you're burying him.
I like Joe Hennig. I think he is a tremendous talent.
You should do this when you talk now.
What's that?
Well, because you're always political when you talk. So
I'm honest.
Well, then you're not political. And what the heck? Can't you control that thing? $500 fine.
It
for
has
you,
a mind of its own.
$500 fine for you.
500.
Yep.
What are we in TNA?
Let's go to this week's WWE report, ladies and gentlemen. And let's first talk about Raw, David Hero, and back to Curtis Axel, as Paul Heyman introduced him as the latest member of, well, his latest client, rather, is Curtis Axel. And this has been hyped all day on Twitter, that Paul Heyman would be revealing his latest client. A lot of people thought it was going to be Rob Van Dam for some reason.
Some people thought Batista.
A lot of people thought Batista. However, it turned out to be Curtis Axel, which led to a match between him and Triple H, which led to Triple H being, well, I guess, concussed at the end of that matchup.
Yeah, he's not feeling
run him
well.
off TV. Talked a little bit about it on Hot Tag yesterday, but Curtis Axel, part of Paul Heyman's group, and now Paul Heyman is his mouthpiece. It seems like there could be nothing but good that will come of
Well,
this.
let's face it, no matter who it was going to be a letdown. Because everyone's thinking, who's the big star going to be? There's nobody leaving TNA. There's nobody as a free agent.
People were waiting for the big return.
And there wasn't one. So instead of recycling someone that they've recycled 2 or 3 times already, bring up Joe Hennig, a guy that was in Nexus for a little while. He's been working the main event matches and was doing Saturday Morning Slam, and give him the opportunity. I mean, the kid has done a fantastic job. He helped get The Rock ready for the last 2 WrestleManias. He helped Brock Lesnar and Triple H get ready for their WrestleMania matches. He's worked with some of the biggest names, getting them prepared.
And that is not something you can substitute.
Absolutely not.
The experience that he's had
When The
with those
Rock
people.
handpicks you and says, I want to work with you to get ready for my 2 big main events with John Cena, that says a lot about the guy's talent.
That it does. Speaking of talent, Ryback is showing a lot more of it lately as he announces an ambulance match between he and John Cena to occur at WWE Payback, the next pay-per-view coming from Chicago. David, I like this opening. I thought it made sense. Whether or not you like the ambulance match, I thought it made sense. And Ryback was standing tall and strong, not John Cena. That's a change, a change that I like.
I just think they've tried too hard to get Ryback to be the bad guy.
Really?
It's worked. It has worked. I like the fact he finally has some new gear, some new T-shirts, some merch to sell. But he's so one-dimensional. He has one speed, and that's fast forward. And I don't know if that's conducive for what they're going to want to do with him in the future.
How about that footage we saw from the post-show of Extreme Rules of Mark Henry walking out saying, I'm going home?
He could.
Last time we saw somebody do that, it was Jack Swagger, and he came back with
Well,
Zeb
and
Coulter.
CM Punk.
He never really said he was going home. He dropped the mic
He's
and
been
left.
tweeting about it nonstop, that he's happy to be home and chilling and watching Cubs games and Blackhawks games and everything else.
So you
going
hate
on in
Chicago now, too?
I've never liked Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
What did Chicago ever do to you?
Traffic. It's ridiculous. Remember last year, we're
Here
down.
this week. SmackDown last night. It's all about the Shield again, David Hero. The Shield gets a big win over Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, and Sheamus in the main event. There's no stopping the Shield.
They beat Kofi Kingston. They didn't beat Randy Orton or Sheamus. They beat one of those 2 guys. It's a different story. Kofi Kingston's become the weak link in the company.
Really?
I think so.
He loses 2 matches. He's a weak link in the company.
He doesn't have that fire he used to have. He's a transitional guy right now.
Wade Barrett defeats The Miz after Fandango interfered. And
What
this,
a
of course,
mess that
stemmed
is.
From The Miz's
What a mess that is.
Miz TV segment
you
where
got
Fandango was a
Miz,
guest.
Fandango, and Wade Barrett. That is like, it's just a mess. Because there's no, it just doesn't work. I just don't see how those guys can have a good program together.
Really? Did you think that, well, that's a dumb question, whether or not him and Jericho would have had a good program, and they did.
No, of course. Why? Because Jericho is a seasoned veteran.
Right.
Okay? Miz is not a seasoned veteran. Wade Barrett, he's still 4 years in.
Got new music.
Weird. It's weird music. I like
Curtis
Wade
Axel
Barrett.
gets a win on Sin Cara on SmackDown. And then on this past Wednesday's main event, it was Alberto Del Rio defeating Big E Langston in a rematch from Raw where Langston had beaten Del Rio.
You know what I didn't like about that match with Raw with Del Rio and Big E Langston? He didn't work the ankle one bit. He didn't beat him by pounding on his leg.
That's this week's WWE report, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time to go in depth. And, well, we'll start just by talking about the World Heavyweight Champion. So if you could just please pause your hate for a few moments. The World Heavyweight Champion Dolph Ziggler was, as you know, recently sidelined with a concussion. He was originally scheduled to compete in a three-way match at Extreme Rules, but he was not able to do so. WWE pulled Ziggler from that match and kept the World Heavyweight Championship title around his waist. That single move proves the value that WWE sees in Ziggler as champion. Pause your hate. They could have done a number of things, such as leave him in the match and have him lose without getting pinned, reschedule the match, or even strip him of the World Heavyweight Championship. They did none of that. They protected Ziggler as champion. Ziggler carried around that Money in the Bank briefcase for over 9 months. Finally cashed it in the night after WrestleMania. His reign is still fresh. At this point, it is unknown how long Ziggler is going to be out of action. So the question is, why indeed did WWE take the course of action that they took instead of stripping him of the title or having him lose in that matchup at Extreme Rules that he could have participated in but not participated in? Why did they keep the title on him with an undisclosed amount of time away?
They did the same thing for CM Punk. When Punk blew out his knee,
he was gone for about a month.
He still missed the pay-per-view.
He did, but they didn't know. Let's be real. Remember, they didn't know. They thought he was going to be able to perform at that pay-per-view.
But he didn't. And, you know, Dolph Ziggler, they need to keep the belt on him because they can't afford to reset Dolph Ziggler again. Okay? Right now, he is the guy they're going to run with. He's creative. He's a fantastic in-ring performer. They take the belt off Dolph Ziggler. Who are they going to put it on? They're going to put it on Del Rio? That didn't work when he was the champ. You know what? The funny thing about Del Rio, I don't want me to go off a tangent.
I'm sure you'll find a way not to talk about Dolph Ziggler.
But no, they keep saying that Del Rio was chasing the American dream, right? Didn't he come out in $1 million cars like 4 months ago? Huge mansions, rich, handsome, and powerful?
Yes.
Did he lose all the money all of a sudden?
Well, the stock market. Housing
in
crisis.
Mexico?
They have some
I don't think it
challenges as
crashed
well.
quite like, no. So they rebooted Del Rio. They're not too sure about Swagger. They keep beating him, even though he's had really solid matches lately. They need to keep the belt on Ziggler because that is the popular choice right now.
Randy Orton. Easy.
If Randy Orton beats Dolph Ziggler, Ziggler will not get that belt back in the next 6 months.
So when he comes back, when Dolph Ziggler makes his big reemergence, does it make him stronger or weaker that he was pulled from the match and retained the championship?
People will already have forgotten.
Will they?
Yep. It won't make a difference.
So the number one contender is Alberto Del Rio.
Yes.
So presumably at Payback, we're going to have Alberto Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler.
We should. That should be the match.
Ladder match?
No.
Ooh.
No.
Oh, it's supposed to be a ladder match at
They
Extreme
can't
Rules.
afford to have him get concussed again.
Okay, you can't slow Dolph Ziggler down.
Well, yeah, you can. Don't put him on a ladder.
But don't they owe the fans some type of gimmick match?
SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
What's the matter when you're...
They had plenty of gimmicks on Sunday. They don't need any more.
Should it have been Alberto Del Rio or should it have been Jack Swagger?
It's a coin flip on that one. I mean, it doesn't make a bit of difference because neither guy is going to get that title anytime soon. If you want,
So you're saying Ziggler's going to have the title for a long time?
I wouldn't be surprised if he has it to the end of the year.
Really?
Would not. Now he could screw something up along the way, you know.
Such as?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm guessing it's going to be Ziggler and Orton at SmackDown, or at
SummerSlam.
At SummerSlam.
Could be a great match.
It could be a fantastic match, and that, as the Kaz would say, will be the temperature check to see how well Ziggler has done.
Did they not prove with CM Punk? Did they not prove with Alberto Del Rio that they're willing to keep one of these championships on people for a longer period of time than you may have expected?
I don't know if people will notice because nobody watches SmackDown anyhow.
About 3.5 million people watch SmackDown every week. You consider that nobody?
Well, it's not that big of a number.
Well, I think it shows that WWE is invested in Dolph Ziggler, and we will see the endorsed leader of the Nelson family continue to excel in professional wrestling. And let's not forget, Langston and AJ are still there to continue Ziggler's presence, if you will, in his absence.
And when he does return, the crowd will go crazy.
Well, as they always do for Dolph Ziggler.
And we will hear obnoxious noises coming out of your place.
That do usually have the TV pretty loud to
Yes,
avoid
you do.
hearing Next on Primetime, though, we have a look back on Thursday's Impact Wrestling, a draft update with Linda, and this week's Wrestling Outlook. All that after this brief timeout right here on My 24 Milwaukee. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Primetime Saturday night right here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero. And it's time for this week's Hot News. That's all the headlines you need in just about 90 seconds or less.
You were way over last week.
First off, WWE may be looking to partner with the NFL, the National Football League, to find talent. WWE Hall of Famer Jim Ross spoke to Alex Marvez of Fox Sports and said, and I quote, "Everybody doesn't make the 53-man roster. Some guys are going to be looking for work, and we've got some job openings. Maybe we can put the synergies of these two entities together and create something wonderful one day." Ross had a meeting this week with the NFL Players Association.
Hold on a second.
This is my segment.
They want to bring in NFL players? Don't they get arrested every couple weeks for something?
TMZ's reporting that former WWE diva and Hall of Famer, current Hall of Famer,
Speaking of arrested,
Sonny Tammy Cinch, was released from prison after serving a 4-month sentence. She had been serving time for repeatedly violating terms of a restraining order by her former boyfriend. Sonny will be serving 2 years probation as well.
6 times?
Unfortunately, during her jail time, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer and had a hysterectomy as a result. That is this week's hot news.
I'm going to give her your phone number.
What?
Well, I think it would be good therapy for her to talk to you.
Already.
Well, you need to reach out.
Let's go to this week's TNA report, ladies and gentlemen, and let's start off with some news released by TNA President Dixie Carter earlier this week. James Storm has suffered an abdominal tear, David Hero, and he's going to be out of action per him.
How come no one's complaining about that? When The Rock did, everyone's, oh, he's faking it. But James Storm does it, it must be true.
He's going to be out for about 6 to 8 weeks. Will he be missed?
Of course. He has a huge fan base.
When did he injure himself? I forget. Was it during the...
Well, he was the special guest referee.
He must have pulled that arm up too high, huh?
If you watch back the match, you hear him scream. Boy, it's been a rough couple weeks for TNA Impact Wrestling with things that happened on TV.
No, I like this past week. Suicide Back. So that's a great character. And keep in mind, that's a character they created off the video game.
Right, but get some hoods or masks so the kids... But you really want
they
a kid...
They don't sell those?
No, but you really want a kid to buy a suicide mask?
Exactly. That's the good and the bad.
Yeah.
It's almost there, but not quite. Speaking of which, last week's Impact Wrestling scored a .84 rating, just over 1 million viewers. This is their lowest rating of the year, David. They don't seem to be moving forward. Is it summer? As we know, ratings drop during the summer.
Absolutely.
Or is it the product?
It's going to be a little bit of each because Jeff Hardy's not there.
Exactly.
Say what you want. Say what you want about Jeff Hardy, but he's a draw. He sells tickets, and they really haven't had anybody else step up. I mean, AJ is back and forth, good guy, bad guy. They don't know what he's at.
Well, I mean, Sting's in the main event at Slammiversary.
And that's probably a reason why it could be hurting a little bit. I mean, I think that the fans have had, as much as he is beloved by the fans, I think they've had enough of him lately.
Sting?
Absolutely.
You asked about who stepped up. I mean, Bully Ray. Let's not.
But he's a bad guy. We're talking about what baby faces.
It's by to root after.
Yeah, you do.
Now, if it were the summer, then we wouldn't see the same thing, or we would see the same thing happening on Raw. Raw scored a 2.96 rating this Monday, about 4.2 million viewers, which was essentially flat with the prior week. Now, they were coming off a pay-per-view. They normally have a spike on pay-per-views, so post-pay-per-view Raws. So maybe it is indeed just the summer doldrums, if you will.
Or, you know what it is? People just watching our show and getting all this stuff anyways.
You can get it in 30 minutes or less as opposed to enduring 5 hours of that.
That's your motto.
I'd vote for that. That is this week's TNA report. Keep in mind, you can check out Interactive Live on our YouTube channel and at our website, pwrshow.com, to get all the up-to-the-minute results after the live impact each and every Thursday night on Spike TV. And David, it's time now. We, had Extreme Rules this past Sunday, and there was points were issued for the very first time in the draft.
Dominated.
So, Linda, take it away.
In the first event of the PWR draft, WWE Extreme Rules, David Hero and the Super Friends took an early lead, scoring a total of 165 points.
Temporary.
The Nelson family was not far behind, scoring 145 points with this month's MVP, The Shield, who scored a total of 55 points for the family. You can find all the details on the Extreme Rules scoring right now at pwrshow.com. Points will be made again at TNA Slammiversary, so stay tuned for the next update after that.
Keep in mind, those 55 points should have been mine.
How so? How are the rules against you?
Because I had the Shield
you
originally.
drew a name.
I found out that the Kaz had written the Shield down on every one of those sheets of paper.
Linda, could I have the trophy, please? Linda, trophy. Because, I knew you'd
Did you just call Linda your trophy?
I knew you'd allege that... Thank you. Linda. I sort of wanted the contents as well. Anyways, let's go to this week's Wrestling Outlook. And, it's what we're looking forward to for the week, Memorial Day week, from WWE and TNA. Now, Monday being Memorial Day, David Hero, don't look for anything big to happen on Raw because it's Memorial Day. A lot of people are going to be out grilling and not watching WWE programming. However, what will be the outcome of Triple H's concussion or whatever it was? And
well, you're going to have to go to the app to find out what happens there.
I have the app. As much as you want me to, WWE, I am not having a two-screen experience with you. I can't.
Whoa, what did you just say?
I'm not going to have a two-screen experience with
who?
WWE. They want me to have a two-screen experience with Raw.
Okay.
I don't want to do that because I ain't got time for that. Anyways, that's what I want to know. What's next in this Triple H chapter? What's next for Curtis Axel? And what's going to be the World Heavyweight Championship situation for Payback? Is Dolph Ziggler going to be back in time
he should be back
to make
by then.
Payback?
He should be.
Really? You've been concussed recently? You're probably concussed
I have
now.
been.
Moderate?
I'm okay.
Do you know that a headache is a concussion?
That's
There's
what I've
all
heard.
these levels? Anyways.
So your girlfriend has a lot of headaches, huh? Or concussions?
That is this week's Wrestling Outlook, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with you again next Saturday right here on My 24 Milwaukee. Be sure to check out our programming at pwrshow.com, mailbox, hot tag, and more. Available online exclusively for that one.
This one.
This is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.